Hey guys, how you going? Hope you're all doing very well. This evening I'm going to be doing another movie review, so I hope you find this one interesting. This movie is an action film from Cambodia. This is spoken in the Khmer language with English subs, released in the year 2018, directed by Jimmy Henderson, and this film is called Jailbreak. So Jailbreak is about this very influential criminal nicknamed Playboy. Playboy is facing a 25-year prison sentence, but in order to get that sentence cut down considerably, he's agreed to testify against the notorious Butterfly Gang. Now, the Butterfly Gang consists of these beautiful women that are very dangerous and basically terrify the common person of Cambodia, is that they're committing these awful crimes, but they're immune to the law because the law really doesn't have the capability to bring them down. But that is until Playboy has agreed to testify against them, which in turn infuriates the Butterfly Gang, so much so that they want the death of Playboy before he can talk. So in order to achieve this, they're going to stage a prison riot when the special ops policemen accompany Playboy to the jail and are actually taking him to his cell. So now that the riot has ensued, the whole place has been locked down, and now the special ops and Playboy are trapped, and these criminals are baying for their blood. So these special ops policemen happen to be experts in these martial arts, and they're going to have to use all their martial arts knowledge in order to not only save the life of the witness, but their own lives as well. So it's going to descend into complete carnage, and what happens at that point on is something you're going to have to find out for yourself, because that's as far as I'm going with my synopsis. Now, my thoughts on Jailbreak. I was very excited to see this film for two reasons. Now, initially, I hadn't really been exposed to Cambodian cinema before, so that is a problem that I'm a little bit skeptical with. I was wondering whether or not this is going to be really low budget, whether it was going to, basically Cambodia is not known for a very good reason. But on the other hand, for two reasons that I was very excited to see it. Number one, I'm always excited to see a newcomer as far as world cinema is concerned. And number two, this is actually showcasing martial arts that is very relevant to the culture of Cambodia. This is something that the Raid had with Indonesian martial arts, and something that Ong Bak had with Thai martial arts. And you've got martial arts movies of the past, such as movies from Donnie Yen, Jackie Chan, Bruce Lee, all these movies that have really set Asian martial arts cinema on the map. And so whenever a new martial arts sort of nation comes along, it's always very interesting to see what they can actually produce. And so those two reasons were the reasons why I really wanted to see it, but I was also skeptical for the actual other reason that I said, is that maybe this Cambodia hasn't been heard for a very specific reason. When I looked on IMDb, I realised that there have been other Cambodian films, but they really haven't matched and basically appealed to a worldwide audience. So this movie actually has got out onto the worldwide stage, and so for that reason I was very hopeful. And at the end of the day, although I will say that this movie is not a complete mess and it's not a disappointment, it's still a movie that I thought could have been a little bit better, because it actually felt like this is a movie that was paying respect to the Raid a little bit too much. That had a very similar story to the Raid, it had very similar sort of fight choreography, but it didn't really have too much else, and so in turn it does become a little bit boring by the time it finishes. But I will say that the fight choreography was absolutely brilliant. The way that it was shot, it wasn't any shaky cam, it wasn't trying to pull any tricks. I thought that the director was actually very knowledgeable about how he wanted to shoot this film, and that everybody was on the same page, and it makes the fight choreography something that you can actually marvel at. Not only marvel at the action set pieces, but marvel at the actual abilities from these actors to produce these martial arts to a point where you can actually enjoy it and actually feel like this is a caricature martial arts movie. Martial arts movies don't bank on being realistic, and if you have a realistic martial arts film, then it basically defeats the purpose. And so I thought this movie had that level of caricature nature where you could actually enjoy it. It actually felt like these were superheroes doing things that you wouldn't associate with realism, but doing it in a way where, as I said, it matches what the mood of a great martial arts film is. Whether you got films from Jet Li such as Iron Monkey, which is a classic, Once Upon a Time in China, that's an absolute classic. Those movies don't bank itself on realism. Those movies bank itself on cartoon sort of violence, cartoon sort of martial arts, where you think to yourself, this is something that you can just sit back and marvel at. This is something that you can dream of. And so this is everything that martial arts is, and I think Jailbreak really understands what it was that made Asian martial arts in the past so good, and that's something that the Raid did very well as well. So it's a very violent film. It's not as violent as I thought it really could have been, but it's still violent enough to actually get you in the mood and actually give you that sense of dread that these people, these martial artists, these policemen were actually facing grave danger. And you also have some caricature villains such as a cannibal that I really liked, and you also have the Butterfly Gang that I thought were very interesting. But there was something about the Butterfly Gang that I didn't really like, and I'll go through that a little bit at the end. I thought it looked very good as far as a polished piece is concerned, and I actually thought it was funny from here and there. It was supposed to be a light-hearted sort of movie, and I thought the script allowed a few chuckles from from me from time to time, which is something that I liked. But unfortunately, the biggest problem, as I said, it doesn't really create enough of its own. I thought this is a movie that I've seen before in the Raid 1, where these policemen are trapped inside this apartment building. This is a movie where they're trapped in a prison, but it doesn't really separate itself from taking inspiration from that movie. It felt like a fan-made film. This felt like a movie where Jimmy Henderson really liked Gareth Evans and what he did, and he's trying to emulate his own sense of the Raid, as opposed to actually making a movie that could actually say this is a Jimmy Henderson film. So you've got great fight cinematography, but it's something that, as I said, you've seen before. So after a while, it does start to become a little bit repetitive. And because this movie doesn't possess an action superstar like Iko Uwais or Tony Jaa or Jet Li or Jackie Chan, they're these characters that you can actually really bank for, the characters that are basically that emulation of a superhero. This movie doesn't have that. It has all these characters, these special ops police. They're all very bland. They all run into each other. You don't really know who to support. There's no one that you can actually pick out. There's no one where you can emphasize your attention to. Therefore, all these characters are a little bit too bland for its own good, and so I didn't really care if they lived or died. You've also got the same problem with the villains of the Butterfly Gang. Yes, the Butterfly Gang were great to look at, but when it came time for the Butterfly Gang to really deliver their martial arts, it kind of felt like a bit of an anticlimax. And so the movie does have a very limited setting of the jail, which is also a problem, is because after a while you start to sense that you've seen it all before as far as fighting is concerned. So the fighting at the start will really surprise you by how good it looks, but then after a while you feel as though you're going back in time and you're watching the exact same thing over and over. And so the great thing about the Raid is that each fight scene seemed different from the other, but this movie doesn't possess that. So there's a strong level of scene that done it before, and so after a while you start to think, what else does it have up its sleeve? But unfortunately it doesn't have anything else to complement those fight scenes to make it a complete piece. So the movie does have a strong sense of deja vu. The movie does have a strong sense of relying on its fighting a little bit too much, and it doesn't really have a story to complement it to really drag it and pull it through to the finish line. So that was the biggest disappointment, but as I said, if you like martial arts movies, you're probably going to really like the way that Jailbreak looks. I just thought some of the script as well was a little bit lacking. It could have been polished up a little bit to make at least one of these characters really likable, and so I just thought there was a lot of missed opportunities in this movie, and although it's not disappointing because I wasn't expecting much, I still thought, okay, there's some likable qualities in there to make it worth at least one viewing, but don't get your hopes up that it's going to be another Raid type of movie. So overall, for Jailbreak, going to give this one 2.5 stars. Definitely go and see it at least once and make up your own mind. Alright guys, that's it for my review. Hope you enjoyed it. Till next time, keep watching movies and I'll see you later.